So I was like, I want to watch this, and there's like this loose strand of hair that's covering the screen. So I just went, but it kept coming back. It kept coming back. I was like,
Why
human do?
I'm Jed,
I'm Terry.
and together
We human.
I just wanted to lead for one.
Yeah, no, it's great. I appreciate
That's
it.
all I
Honestly,
got.
take the lead.
That's as far as I go.
On this episode, again, like every episode, we talk about a sensitive topic that makes us feel weird inside. Today, we're talking about how to take criticism. It's a lot. It's a thing that we have to deal with in life. I think especially nowadays that we put ourselves out there on the internet all the time in small ways. I think it's not always just to do with the work that we do. Sometimes it's just people judging us for the way we are.
Yes.
And so we're constantly taking criticism, and sometimes criticism isn't labeled as criticism. So sometimes you have to read into it. Sometimes we're reading into stuff that's maybe not criticism, but we're reading it as criticism. But I think the point of all of this is to say criticism is everywhere, and we have to learn how to deal with it, right?
Yes, it's a matter of resilience.
I think we live in this culture where there's a lot of scrutiny on us, on all of us, right, all the time. And the standards to which we're held to, I think, are very high because of like how much information we have. You know, we all have to be aware of every cause. We have to be informed about everything. We put ourselves out there, and we have to look a certain way. We have to like act a certain way, present ourselves a certain way. And it's very easy with the click of a button, a couple keystrokes, to put a little criticism out there, anonymously sometimes,
and even more boldly. With your full name attached to
with
it.
your full name attached to it. Sometimes people do that and they have no problem with that.
Yeah.
As we discovered with a little comment that we got
Hey,
that precipitated this episode.
today's
A very small comment.
It's
very tiny.
It's pretty harmless.
It was pretty harmless in the grand scheme of things. It was pretty harmless. But but when you're putting something out there, any small amount of like criticism from a stranger can really like set your day, or at least set the mood for your day.
Yeah.
And it's never great. And I would say, first, I think we'll get into it. But first off, I think we can talk about, just like we always start every episode with just like a weird social interaction that happened to us, something that made us feel awkward inside, recently, or something notable that happened recently, in any time in our life, honestly.
Yes.
Was there something that happened to you this week, Jed?
Yes. Shall I go?
Yeah, I'd love to hear.
This is minor. The interaction was anyway.
Yeah, great.
I was leaving the home of a mutual friend of ours.
Okay, I know.
Yes.
Okay.
Mutual friend. We always
Mutual
like
friend.
doing this.
Wink,
50%
wink.
chance we're thinking of
Yeah.
it.
It's like, are we thinking about the same person?
Yes.
But then the details emerge, and then eventually I figure it
I
out.
think
Usually,
we figured
okay,
it out.
now I know. And I have to recontextualize everything you
yes.
just said before I figured it out.
Our mutual friend who lives in the Arts District.
Oh, yes, of course.
Yes, of course.
I do know.
And I was leaving their home, walking to my car.
Yes.
And I'm walking. I turn the corner up a lane, up a sidewalk to get to my car.
Yeah.
I saw a pair of women crossing the street to walk up the same lane as me.
Yes.
And so I'm ahead of them at this point.
Yeah.
I've got a backpack on and my tote.
So sorry, you're walking, and you're ahead of them.
Yes.
But walking toward them, and they're walking toward you.
We're initially walking towards each other.
Yeah.
They're coming closer to my side to go up the same sidewalk. So
Okay.
all of this set
Got
up
it.
just
So
to say
you're eventually heading the same direction.
we're heading the same direction. I'm
Got
ahead
it.
of them.
Two women.
Two women.
Got it.
It's not that important of a detail.
Well, see, I thought you were getting into gendered stuff because a lot of times at night when a
Right.
woman is walking alone, I will, and I know I'm walking behind them,
Yeah.
I'll cross the street just
Yeah.
to be like, hey, I'm not trying to do anything.
Yes, exactly.
But sorry, I didn't know if that was where the story was
that's
going.
not where it's
Okay.
going, but it is worth talking about.
Yeah, it
'cause
is.
I employ the same strategy.
I think that
like,
is a
as a
very
guy.
specific thing. This is a PSA to men out there.
Yeah.
Like, if you find yourself in a situation where it's dark and you're walking in the same direction as a woman who's walking alone, I think you have to be aware of that. I think you have to be aware, and you have to I think there are a couple strategies. I've heard of a couple strategies. Two come to mind. One is you make a lot of noise. You're like, hey, I'm here.
Yeah, let
it's
you
like,
know I'm
it's
not
like,
trying to sneak
I'm not
up
trying to
on
do
you.
anything. I'm not sneaking up. I'm like, it's like a rattlesnake.
Yeah,
I don't want to
yeah.
bite you, but
Yeah.
like I'm just telling you I'm
Hiss,
here.
hiss, hiss,
Yeah. Hiss.
Rattle, rattle, rattle.
The second one which I mentioned was you cross the street
You cross the
and
street.
you're like, I'm not following you. I'm like, I'm literally making an effort to like get out of your path of, and it has nothing to do with the fact that like anything was gonna happen. It's just like just a signal to you to be like, don't worry about me.
Right.
Um,
Because they're on edge all the
yeah,
time. They're constantly at risk
exactly.
for their lives.
And then I would say actually the third one that came to mind recently, or just in thinking about this, is that you make sure that you like are not pacing yourself exactly behind them, because then they're like, oh, you are following me, right?
Yes. There's been an issue once where I was trying to change my pacing relative to the women in front of me.
Yeah.
It was at night.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, what if I like sped up? And
Yeah.
then she was speeding up, and I was like, okay, that's understandable.
Yeah.
What if I slow down? And then I just look like a guy who's
Oh my God.
sneaking up on her.
Okay, I've had that happen before. Like sometimes you're like, there was this one time I remember like this was when I was living in San Francisco, and it was late, and I was trying to get somewhere, and I was in one of those situations where like there was this couple ahead of me, and they were going kind of slow.
Yeah.
And there was no way for me to like gracefully pass them, and they're going fast enough that you can't overtake them quick enough that it's awkward, right? But there was this moment where I was like trying to make the pass. I was trying to get past them, and the dude turns around because at that point I had gotten close to them, and he kind of gives me this weird look, and I was just like, and I think he actually said something to me, like he was like, dude, what are you doing? I was like, I'm trying to pass you. Like, you guys are taking up so much space on the sidewalk. I just want to get around you. That's like all I was trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
But he caught me at this weird moment where I was like behind them.
Yeah.
And so it like felt like I was like sneaking up on them, I guess. But I was like, you guys are in the wrong. I'm not in the wrong. Like, you guys are going too slow, and I'm just trying to get around you.
It's like trying to overtake on a single lane. And
Oh my God.
They speed up.
They speed up. The move I do now to pass someone,
You go.
I go, I'm coming around. I'm like, left.
Choo-choo.
No, what I'll do is I will either, if there's, like, when you're walking on the sidewalk and there's like a little like green fairway or whatever, I will like, like
Yes.
I'll walk on the fairway.
Yeah,
I'll,
me
like,
too.
So that it's very clear that I'm not trying to like get close to them.
Right.
Or if there is no fairway, I'll wait for a meter, like a literal, like a parking meter, so I can swerve around it.
Oh,
so there's a
okay.
little protection.
I was gonna picture you just like stopping to pretend to use the meter.
Yeah, I know, right? No, nothing to see here.
Oh, don't worry about me. That's really funny.
So yeah, but sorry, go back to on to your story.
It's good that we went into that because that's not where this is going.
Okay, yeah, but
Just
important
for
things,
context,
PSA.
It
for
was
everyone.
daytime.
Yeah,
And I'm walking ahead of them. I've got my backpack on and my tote. Yeah, pizza.
yeah,
It just processed what you said.
Yeah.
And then I am minding my own business, and then I take a step forward, and then my foot just slides. I almost do like a full half like split forwards.
Oh, full split. Whoa. So okay, your front leg goes forward, your
Yeah.
back leg goes backward.
Yeah, I'm like,
a little bit.
"Ooh."
Okay.
And so because I knew there was people around me, I went, whoa.
Yeah. Sure.
So where my mind is like fixated on is when you do something clumsy,
Of course.
and you're aware that people are looking at you,
You gotta acknowledge it.
you have to acknowledge it.
Yeah, you gotta be
right?
like, whoa, look at that.
Yes.
Whoops.
And
Like, I'm not trying to hide it. I'm not trying
Right,
to pass it off like
exactly.
it didn't happen.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. And I kind of looked at the floor, and then I looked at the women, and because they saw me, and they
Yeah.
were like, "Be careful."
Oh.
It was a nice
Very
gesture.
Yeah,
And they're like, hey,
yeah,
there's,
but
there's,
I was like, what's that
like,
gonna
yeah,
do? It's like,
there-
yeah, I know.
yeah, be careful. There's some on your foot. And I look down, and I'm trying to process what I stepped in.
What happened?
I stepped in paint.
You stepped in paint.
Yeah, white paint.
Was it
It was so
like a pool of paint?
yeah. So I look on the ground.
Yeah.
It's a white pool of paint. I
Okay.
look further up the street, and then I see
Footsteps. White
well,
footsteps.
it would be
Yeah,
my
your
it'll be my
footsteps,
footsteps now. But there's just someone. It clearly wasn't sanctioned by the city.
Oh.
Someone just saw the graffiti and painted
Over it.
over it.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. And
It might have been sanctioned by the city, actually, because they do have these. You can call the city, and they just come and they'll just like cover it up.
yeah.
But a lot of times they won't do a great job.
But just straight up white paint and no
Oh.
no like.
I know it's not
Signs or
great.
anything
Yeah,
like
it's
that?
not great. I mean, you're probably right that it was just a random person.
think
but
so.
like,
My first thought was who would, and I
I
remember
know
where I
it's
lived.
so
and
funny.
what
Like
city.
the intention is right. Like it's like, but the cause that
Yeah.
you're like. There's sometimes when you're like, you're not qualified to do this thing, and you don't think through it because like to you like there was a pool of paint, like they didn't do it right, they didn't put any caution tape up or like let it dry or whatever, because when people like when they're repainting like the strips on the road or whatever, they do this like they sprinkle this like dust on top of it afterwards that like cures it or whatever like immediately. Seasons it, whatever. So but you need to have those things ready, otherwise you're creating a hazard for the public.
And so, yes, again, like I'm just the fact that there were people there.
Yeah.
If there was no one there, I would still probably look around and be like, "Does anyone see that?"
Yeah, totally.
And again,
there's some guy in the third story window
like,
just like watching you. I saw you.
Happened. So I'm thinking in my head, in the best case scenario, you're saying something to let everyone know that you're okay.
Yes.
Or acknowledge it.
Also to make them feel socially okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so again, in my clever thinking, I said, "Whoa."
Yeah.
But I think if I were to redo it, I would do. Should we do like a speed
round?
Oh
yeah, sure. Of like what's the appropriate like?
Yeah. We'll take turns. Like you slip, and then I saw you happen.
Yeah,
and you say something, right?
Yeah.
But I had one in the bank, which was okay. I slip.
Wait. So just like a.
And then I say no, I don't have it in the bank anymore.
Oh.
Hold on. No, wait. I got what? No, wait.
You just kind of like stay there. Like I'm gonna say something.
Like, yeah.
Don't worry, everyone. I'm gonna acknowledge.
Yeah. It's supposed to be off the cuff.
No.
Okay,
yeah.
You go ahead now. You slip in front
I
of
think
me.
it's funny. Like
you
there's
do it
like
gracefully.
Sometimes I'll just be like, I'll do the expletive. I'll be like, fuck or shit. Just be like, hey, I acknowledge this, and don't worry, I'm cool.
Yeah.
I'm cool about it. It's like I'm kind of edgy here.
Yeah. There's a version where like I quip. I go, "Whoa," and I go, "Painter." I hardly knew her.
I like the idea that you like turn to this imaginary camera that's like watching you, like a mockumentary camera. I hardly knew her. No, I think it is like there's this like it's funny when there's a simultaneous pressure for both parties, the party that like fell and the party that witnessed the fall, to make it socially okay for, you know what I mean?
Yes.
So you're like, you want to say something to be like, don't worry, I'm not embarrassed, or like, you don't have to get secondhand embarrassment for me because I acknowledge that I just tripped or I fell or slipped. And then they have to be like, be careful, be careful, don't slip again.
What if it was like guerrilla adware where like I slip and I go, "Oh, good thing I have."
Yeah, I know.
Good thing I have Affleck?
Yeah, exactly. Gonna call my insurance rep this afternoon.
Oh,
that's so
my
funny.
hamstring.
The idea.
Good thing I have Blue Shield, Blue Cross.
I know. I think about it too, because like it's funny because like these insurance companies spend so much money on like digital advertising, but what if they just like spent that money instead of like on influencers and like Google ads, they just hired people to go out into the world and they just like had ads in real life. Like there's like they hire some stunt performer to crash into a wall and he gets out. Everyone's like, there's like a dozen people who are surrounding. He stands on the hood and he's like, good thing I have Allstate. Just like guerrilla marketing at its best.
But actual blood coming.
But it's actual blood. It's actual blood coming out of his head.
Oh my god.
The ambulance are real. The cuts are real.
Yeah, the damage is real.
The damage is real. I love that. Okay, so how did you feel after these? Where did they just like kind of like turn?
They were just like, hey, be careful. There's more on the side of your foot.
Oh,
and
so they were looking out for you.
They were looking out for me, and they overtook me.
How far away from you were they?
They were initially, I would say, about like 15 feet.
Okay, so they had a good view.
And then, I took some time to inspect, so they had now crossed in front of me, and then they went to their car.
Gotcha.
But if there
that's funny. It's like they have been watching you in your ordeal for at least
whoa.
Yeah, and then they watch the aftermath of it just to make sure you're okay.
Oh man,
I know.
So I'm short one croc.
Oh no,
it's full of white paint.
You know what I heard you can do?
Eat it.
Yeah, if you get paint on your crock, just eat it.
Eat it.
No, I heard the hack is spray sunscreen.
Oh.
Yeah, apparently spray sunscreen takes off like Sharpie and paint and in ways. Yeah, because it has some like, which is
chemical?
Like not great for your body to know that like it's also going on your body.
Yeah.
That thing that can also like dissolve paint is going on your body. But apparently it has like, I don't know what it is exactly, but Sharpies have like a certain like oil base or something that like water and soap doesn't get off.
Mm-hmm.
And so the same way, like, but like whatever copper tone spray has, like whatever bonds that copper tone can like take it off. Yeah, it
So
was an
maybe I
interesting
can
hack. Yeah,
Save my Croc.
you might be able to save your Crocs with just like a $5 spray sunscreen.
And just the last thought on that,
Yeah,
because
please.
I that made me think of when I had a dog, my beloved
Yeah.
dog, Hubert.
Yeah.
He was just roughing around, having fun.
Yeah.
And then I just watched him just like speed head first into just like a table,
Oh.
and he just like shrugged it off.
Ah.
He just dunk,
Yeah.
and then he just kept going.
So if we could all like be like
dogs.
be like dogs,
Well, no,
right?
it's so interesting, right? As
Yeah.
humans, we're like conditioned to be like, I should be embarrassed.
I know,
or
right?
I'm
I
ashamed.
know,
and
right?
come
I should,
die.
and I should make everyone else feel okay.
But a dog is just like
They're
well,
just like that just happened.
that just happened.
It's like I don't need to impress anyone.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's so true. We should all live our lives more like dogs sometimes.
Public urination.
Public urination, fine. Take
Eating
a shit
your
on the
own fecal
lawn. No problem.
Yeah. So that's it for me.
That's great. I mean, it is like one of those small things where it's just like being out in the world. Every time you decide to like go out into the world, you're like risking your social exposure every single time. And like there are moments, I've had those moments where it's just like you trip, you do something and you're like all alone but there's just like witnesses and you're like, God, everyone can see me right now.
Yeah.
Better just move on with my life.
Yeah. You either just like put your head down and move
Yeah.
on, or you play it off and be like,
Yeah.
shrug your arms and be like, oh.
Next time, get Affleck. Oh man, yeah, no, I've been there before. I guess I don't know if this is even a story, but I'll just say it because I was telling you about it earlier. Just like yesterday, I went down. My parents are staying at a timeshare that they've had for 20 plus years, I think, at this point.
It's paying off.
Yeah, so they get a week every year down in Laguna, which is like an hour drive south of LA, so it's easy for them. And actually, all all things in my dad's family, all the siblings bought in at the same time. So my dad's family has been, for the most part, pretty good about entering businesses together. They've always like kind of co-invested in everything. So whenever something happens, it's always so funny like to hear about like the investments that they made. One of the investments that they made was like this like raw plot of land in New Mexico that they still own today, which never appreciated in value. I think they bought it like 35, 40 years ago, and they've just held on to it. And every year my dad would be like, can you investigate this land in New Mexico? One time I even asked, so my roommate in college was from New Mexico. And so one time I was like, hey Josh, can you like check this out for me? Like, or like, what do you think about this land? My dad keeps bugging me because like all of them, I think my aunt had originally like proposed the idea. So like a bunch of their siblings like bought each a plot of land. And then like 30 years later, I asked my college roommate to be like, can you look at this? He like so kindly like drove out to this like empty plot of land, took photos of it. He was like, hey, here's like my analysis of like how much it's worth. And I was like, oh cool, you did not have to do that. I was just like, I was kind of just like trying to get a gauge on like what the value is. All that's to say is like my parents and my dad and his siblings tend to like invest in similar things. So they ended up buying this like timeshare, which I'm so glad as millennials we've never had access to timeshares, because truly I think it is the worst scheme out there.
When we were growing up, there were so many
timeshares
making fun of timeshares.
Yeah, I know. We were just like, that's a dumb investment. Like, why would you ever do that? To be fair, my parents have gotten a lot of use out of it.
Yeah,
but like, I dread the day when we have to unravel that timeshare, the legality around it for when in whatever like they pass down to us. But you know, for them, it's like, so my parents go down there every year, and so yesterday, you know, we're going to New York this week for
DMCA
for
DCM.
DCM, and so I was like, oh, I'm not gonna see you for a little while. I should like go down and just say hi. So I drove down for just like honestly a few hours, and so I get there, and it's, you know, it's like an hour drive down there, and I like meet them, and I like, first off, my dad like texts me. He's like, my dad's such a neurotic, so he like texts me like a million instructions. He's like, one of the instructions is, we have a parking space. You're allowed to use this parking space. And he gives it to me, and it's labeled 28. And I drive up to the roof, and the parking lot is this awful, really narrow, hard turn. There's like, it's capitalized on every square inch of the top.
Sharp corners.
So the spot that's assigned to me is half a spot. And I get there and I'm like, there's no way I can park in this spot because there's literally a car that I would block in. And so I like But at the time, I was just like, I had to
Random.
go to the bathroom so badly. So I was like, I can't deal with this right now. I'm going to go. So I call my dad and I'm just like, hey, there's no way I'm going to be able to park here. It's like half a spot. He's like, okay, well, just park somewhere else for now and like we'll figure it out. And so I go park in the parking like on the street and I put some money in the meter for like an hour. So just enough time so that I can go to the bathroom and we can figure it out. So I go to the bathroom. My dad goes to the lobby and he's like, maybe we can switch out the spots because there are a bunch of empty spots up there. The guy at the front desk apparently tells him, no, everything's been assigned to everyone else. And he's like, oh, it's fine. He's like, he plays it off like I'm crazy. Like the spot is like, you should, and people park there all the time. And then, so I'm like, okay.
Your dad. Is
No.
Oh,
The guy at the front desk is like, I don't know why you're having a problem with this. Like, everyone parks there all the time. It's in his half spot, that blocks in another car. And so I'm like, whatever, fine. I finish using the bathroom. I go and he's like, maybe we can repark or whatever. I'm like, no. If he thinks I can park there, then I'm gonna park there. And I'm like, he's gonna deal with the repercussions if this dude can't get out of his spot. So I do end up parking there, and it's like this weird spot where it's like there's one spot and it's almost like a tandem spot.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, but there's not really, literally the space, there's a divider for the space, and it's only enough for half the car. So I have to park on top of the line. But supposedly, according to the guy at the front desk, the guy can like maneuver out of it. But I'm like, if I get my car keyed to my dad, so I walk back and I'm like, he's like, was it fine? Could you park in it? And I was like, yeah, I could. And I guess the guy can get out. And he's like, well, hopefully he doesn't like hit you or something like that. And then I turned to him and was like, the guy's got a Porsche. He's not going to be hitting my car like my old VW.
That is a nice thing when you stand to lose less than
Exactly,
a car.
which I love. To be honest, I loved driving. I had an old beat up Highlander at one point, and I was like, I never want a nice car because someone gets aggressive with me on the road and they have a nicer car than me. I'm like,
Yeah.
I dare you.
Yeah.
I dare you to come at me. I will sacrifice this car right now.
Come on, buddy.
Come on, buddy.
I have more to lose.
yeah.
Oh, wait.
I have nothing to lose.
Yeah,
I have nothing
I
to
have
lose.
nothing to lose.
I have nothing to lose. You've got a nice like BMW. Come at me. The power that you have when you have a shitty car.
I want you to hit me.
I want you to hit me. So, like we go about our day and eventually like my dad, I think we're walking back from lunch. This is just the end of the story. We walk back from lunch and the guy my dad like suddenly was like, I think the topic of the parking spot gets raised. And he tells me, the guy said, if you want the better spot, you got to call ahead before you get to your timeshare. And so I'm like, oh, so he admitted it was a bad spot. This whole time he was gaslighting us to thinking this is a regular spot. But he was like, no, he was like, it's the worst spot. If you want the good spots, you have to call ahead. So I was like, you were playing this every which way.
Yeah.
So I was like, ugh.
Yeah.
That got under my skin a little bit.
Mm-hmm. He first presented it like as like, oh, that's a you problem.
That's a you problem. Like he played it like, how could you? Yeah. What do you mean?
Well, what's the issue?
Yeah, what's the issue?
And now that the whole event, like the day is done.
Yeah,
like,
the transpiration of it all. He's like, well, next time,
what a
call ahead.
Slimy
Yeah,
bastard.
I know. But I mean, I was just like, I had to like. But the thing was, like, I backed into the spot so that I could like, and then I had to like. It was so tight that I had to climb out of the passenger seat. It was one of those scenarios where it was just like, this is not a real spot.
Yeah.
So.
Ugh.
I know. I don't know. I'm just like, and I wasn't. The thing was, it wasn't me. Like I wasn't interacting with the guy, and I wouldn't have said anything. But I might have given him a little bit of like, you really think this is a real spot? So I don't know. Do we have social verdicts on? I guess on either of us. For yours, I mean, you did the right thing. I think you always got to call out the like social gaffe, like a little bit of like, whoa, whoops, whoopsie,
silly me, clumsy me,
clumsy me. We all should just carry around like one of those like sound effects machines or whatever. Wah wah.
Just pull that out. Oh, hold on, it's an app on my
yeah,
phone.
I think everyone handled that appropriately.
I think you were just trying your best to abide by the rules of this place.
Yeah,
and it was not set up practically.
It's one of those things where it's like, That's capitalism in effect.
Yeah.
Giving you half a spot and playing it off as a full spot.
We'll be flying in airplane seats.
Oh my God. I will say, God, I experienced this because I'm flying American. And I flew American last time. And they did this thing recently because I hadn't flown American in a while. Look, I'll say there's one great thing about American now. They give you a free meal. They give you a free snack box.
That's nice.
Here's not the good thing.
Uh.
They have created a new section of economy where they have reduced the legroom by like 6 inches. So you are literally like this far away. And that was like, I paid them for the basic.
Sure.
Because I was like, I'm not spending money right now. I can't. I got to get a deal. And I can handle it for like 4.5 hours or whatever. It'll be fine, 5 hours. But last time I was on it, I was like, this is really close.
Really close.
I am like up in this person.
I can smell the back of your head.
Yeah. The last time I was on American, the woman in front of me was like, had long hair.
And it's over the seat.
It was over the seat. It wasn't egregious, but let me tell you.
You have to like part to look through the TV.
It wasn't that bad. It was actually just like a couple strands of hair that were hitting it. But I did this thing where I was like, I didn't want to, I felt like I was encroaching. Like she was, for me, that's like encroaching on my space when someone's hair is over your screen. But I felt so awkward about it. I'm going to admit this right now. I didn't want to touch her hair because I felt like that was crossing the line. So what I did was I like this is so weird. It's even weirder to admit it, but somehow in the moment it felt better than touching her hair. I did the thing where I was like I created a little gust of wind to try to get the loose strands of hair out from my LCD screen. Because I was like, I want to watch this, and there's like this loose strand of hair that's covering the screen. So I just went, but it kept coming back. I was like. I'm just like I want to move it, but it felt like somehow I was crossing a line. I can't physically touch this woman's hair in front of me, but I can create an anomalous gust of wind.
There's a distinct medium that's being used.
I know.
That doesn't involve touch.
Because I could legitimately be like, if she turned around and felt like her hair was moving, I was like, yeah, weird
You're
gust of
like,
wind. Weird.
You know, the cabin's pressurized.
But if I like reached over and like moved it out of the way, what was I gonna do? I don't know. In the moment, it felt better than.
I just picture there's like a guy sitting like across from you in the aisle, looking at you, and you're just the guy going.
And look, I felt weird about doing it, but those little couple strands of hair were really bothering my my entertainment.
Little line,
I was like, no,
fracture.
this is not okay. It's like having like a busted pixel in the middle of your screen. You're like, that's gonna bother you the whole time.
The onus should not have been on you to have to do something.
I know,
about it because people should be self-aware of
I know
the space that they occupy.
Exactly.
But
I mean, I've seen far more egregious stuff online of like people who like literally take their hair and like put it behind, which
like
is insane to me.
A foot will stick through.
Or a foot will stick through. Yeah, that's the worst.
Yeah.
So anyway, but so anyway, again, capitalism trying to steal as much from us as possible.
And we abide by those.
We abide by those rules because I'm trying to get as much as I can for as little as possible.
When it's our turn.
When it's our turn, we're gonna be taking everything we can.
I drink your milkshake.
I drink your milkshake. What a great encapsulation of America right there. Do you think we should get to the topic of conversation,
which was
how take criticism?
Yes.
And I think like for the two of us, like I think we can speak more to the creative process of like putting yourself out creatively because we perform, because we write, because we like put sketches out, because we like put ourselves out even here on the internet. Like in some regards, I would argue that you have to accept that you're putting yourself out there for criticism.
Mm-hmm.
Anytime you create anything and put it out there, part of the process, which I think is healthy, is to learn how to accept criticism and to know how to interpret that. And also what to take away from it.
Yes. I think the first thing that I'd want to get into is just the like what's going on in the mind as you receive criticism.
So I think like I've like had to deal with this a lot because, you know, as a writer, I have to put my work out constantly and I get criticism in various ways. And I think it's taken me years to get to, and I'm still like working through it. Like I think I'll forever be working at getting good at it. But like one thing that I have really tried to do, and I think is very effective, is not to have any emotional response to criticism in the moment. Because oftentimes I find that I will immediately have this like visceral response to criticism that's like, why didn't you like it? What do you mean? What, like, I get really defensive. But then give me an hour and I'll look back at those notes and I'll be like, that makes sense. Like, let me see what I can take from them. So I've just gotten better at acknowledging that and like moving on from it, because I just like know that when you give me criticism, I'm going to get in defense mode a little bit. And so I just have to be like, let me just listen. So I try now just to like listen and jot down notes and not respond unless I'm asked to respond. And it's been really helpful, I think, for me when getting criticism, because then like I think when you take the emotion out of it, it just becomes like a task list. Especially when I'm like getting notes on like a script or a story or something that I've written. It's a lot of times becomes just like, okay, actually sometimes it's nice to have a to-do list on what to like tackle. And that's not always to say that like every suggestion of a criticism is right, but oftentimes I'll be like, okay, you're bumping up against something here, and how do I take a second look at it? Do I think that, because the thing about implementing notes too is like sometimes when you change the things around it, the original thing doesn't need to be changed.
It's
so like you have to
information.
think about it's information, yeah. So you have to like take that in context. But a lot of times, to answer your question, how do I feel when I first get criticism? It's like there's always this initial like defensive response that I have to be aware of.
Yes. So I was doing a little bit of research
Yeah.
on the matter because I felt the same.
Okay, so we have to like put the elephant out, and we got this morning. We wake up to, because we've been like, this is a brand new podcast for us, and we're just like trying it out, and like we're having fun doing it, and a lot of it is just like we have fun, and so we want to put it out there too, and like it's part of the process putting a podcast out there. But some random person on the internet made a comment, and we don't get a lot of comments on our shorts or on our videos, but made a negative comment this morning, and we both woke up to it. Yeah. And we both acknowledged it when we got together to be like, hey, you saw that comment? And you're like, yeah, we saw that comment. And it, I would say like in some small way set the tone for our day.
Yeah. In the grand scheme of things, it's a minor little pinch.
Totally.
And again, by the conditions we set up, this is sort of the byproduct of what we may be facing as we try to put content out there.
Absolutely.
But I was doing research because I was trying to like, what is going on in like mechanically in the mind
as
this is happening? And what I kind of read about was that we generally, we as humans, have a negativity bias.
Yes.
And that's just from the roots of our biology, because back in the day, anything negative would be
a threat to our life. Totally. And it's like biologically embedded in us.
And that's what gets processed is like through
fear.
The fear and
potential threats.
And there's emotion that just is tied in with that, because the emotions help us associate with those threats, those potential threats.
Yeah.
And so that is kind of why we all tend to think about like the 100 positive comments and the one negative comment. Our brain
so much heavier.
Yes, our brains are actually just wired to put more thought into it, because we could perceive it as a threat or like a challenge to our identity.
Oh my God, completely. I do this funny thing where if I put a piece of material out there, and somebody gives me negative feedback, I'm like, because like I'm so hard on myself. So sometimes I'll be like, the negative feedback is always like reinforces the like, no, it should, you're right, I'm bad, it's bad. And then when they give me positive feedback, I usually am like, why are you lying to me? why are you protecting my feelings? Just tell me you hated it.
Right.
So I do that thing where I like do it to myself.
Right. And again, it's backed into that negativity bias, right?
Yeah.
The positive things that come away, we're not going to think about it as much, because maybe it just affirms some degree of like what we might be used to.
I think the other thing about it too is that, and I read this book by this journalist,
Dr. Seuss.
Noted journalist, Dr. Seuss. No, it's a journalist from the Philippines. I think her name's Maria Reza, and it was basically about I think it was called like How to Stop a Dictator. So it was all about Duterte in the Philippines, but a huge focus of the book was about how bad negative news spreads so much faster online, and how Facebook has been complicit in this. And she basically was like, so one point I think around this is how how primed we are as the creators or the commenters to post negative news, because the engagement is so much higher based on this psychological phenomenon where we weigh negative news much more heavily. And why the news always leads with negative stuff, because it's like our ears perk up to it, because biologically we want to hear like, what's the threat? What am I looking out for?
And it's a commodity now.
And it's a commodity. Yeah, it's been commoditized. Even in investing, actually. Did you know that like we weigh losses far more than we weigh gains? So it takes like, I don't know what the number is, but it's like you would have to gain like 5 times as much in profit to feel the same effect as losing one fifth of the loss, because we're very biased toward that. So yeah, I think it's like a negative bias that we have to like immediately feel criticism so much more heavily than a positive comment, right? Because a positive comment like honestly feels fleeting. It's like, oh my God, or we brush it off, or it's like an anomaly. It's like, well, yeah, you think it's good, but like no one else will.
You can discard it or invalidate it.
Yeah,
like, oh, it doesn't really matter.
So yeah, okay. So what else did you learn?
Well, I kind of wanted to go into like the step from receiving the criticism.
Yeah,
because I think it can impose a threat, right? It can be interpreted as like a challenge to our identity.
Yes.
And that's why we're putting so much thought into it. And so like your relationship with yourself is the thing that's kind of being challenged when you're when you hear something negative, because it's like, oh, I thought I had this impression of myself, but this is potentially an indicator that says
I think it's also like, for me, a lot of times, and I think I've expressed this to you as far as like my career goes, it's like I just want some validation that I'm not crazy, that like I'm doing the right things. And I think to your point, like self-awareness, it's like, do I have an accurate view of like myself and of the work that I'm producing? Like, cause you're like, if you're putting it out there, you think there's some credibility or worth to it, right? Cause you're like, I did this thing. I think it's like at least good. So I'm putting it out. And then when you get back, it's like, this is not good. You're like, oh, do I not even know what's good anymore? Right. And that really, I think, can throw you into a tailspin of, am I like living in my own reality? Like, do I not know what's true and what's not?
It's just so fascinating that like something that was biologically meant to serve us eons ago.
Oh my God, thousands of years ago,
adjusted to the modern world.
It's just like, because like, if you think about it, right, we've essentially solved all the like physical threats to our personhood that existed when we developed those skills. Like when we were cavemen, when we were walking around the plains, like you legitimately had to watch out for like the path that had like a saber-toothed tiger or whatever. You had to watch out for what not to eat, so you would die. Now we've essentially solved those problems. Like, you know, violent crime is down. We live in homes that are protected. We have surveillance. Like we literally can access like all these, you know, security cameras at a whim. Like our basic necessities are taken care of. We don't have to worry about food. We don't have to worry about like health I mean, like our healthcare system is broken, but from a relative standpoint, like we're not worried about like something that would have killed us 30,000 years ago.
Like a more primal threat back in the day.
And so, but yet, you know, biology happens on such like a slower level. The evolution of biology happens on a different timeline. And so we're still holding on to the like negativity bias, which has done so much damage to our psychology, to our mental health. And now we're in this place where like, what do we do? Right.
And I think that's what I'm kind of circling around with this sort of idea. It's sort of a challenge to your identity. So like if you have a negative relationship with yourself and a negative viewpoint of yourself, and you receive criticism, you're going to use that criticism to just continually attack yourself. Of course. I think the way that you're going about it is correct, in that like if you understand the sort of mechanics behind it, you know, you can acknowledge the feeling that you're receiving something negative, and the reaction would be to be defensive or, you know, sort of involuntarily respond to it negatively. Right. But then the response is like your informed self processing it and being like, okay. Yeah. Which is, I think, a cycle that takes a lot of effort.
And I think it's also just, I think one important thing that helps me cope with criticism is understanding that it's like, it's not about me, it's about the process and the project. It's natural. It's an important part of getting to the best version of the thing, to get criticism, to work it over and over again. And instead of thinking of it as a failure, think of it as an iteration of the end product. And I think that's a really like good thing. And it's hard when you're, especially, I'll only speak as a writer who writes things that draw from personal in the sense of like, it's how I see the world and think. And so when you put that out there, you're putting a part of yourself out there. And so when that thing gets criticized, it's like yourself, your personhood gets criticized. You know what I mean? And that's the hard part to separate sometimes.
Yes. It's a very sensitive point. And I think this is, we're talking about how take criticism.
Yeah.
But I also think that there should be some awareness of like, we're talking in the context of creative and artistic expression.
Yeah.
If you are in an early stage of doing something, it's like you're in your infancy.
Oh, totally.
And so if you receive criticism at that stage, that could be enough to discourage you.
I know. I think that is really, I think there is, I mean, we're not talking about how to give criticism, but I do think that, I think there's a very like skillful way you give criticism. And I think it's also acknowledging where in the process you are and where the person is. And also I think maybe we can apply that to like where you as the person receiving criticism should know where you are in the process too. And know that if this is the first draft of something, you're going to get criticism, and you should get criticism. You should like keep thinking about, you shouldn't even think about this as being a final draft. Sometimes I mistake myself. Sometimes I like, because I will say there have been drafts of things that I've written that have been final drafts because I've edited them along the way. And sometimes they're not. And I have to remember that that's not always going to work out that way.
Until there's feedback.
So, you know, I think, receiving criticism, I think, is about understanding where along the process you are and making sure that you're appropriately like placing that feedback into the timeline that it's that where it's supposed to be.
I also think there's an element to receiving feedback, which is, and this is a line to walk, is like considering where the criticism is coming from.
Totally.
Because you have to be careful with this, because your sometimes emotional reaction could be like, well, they don't know what they're talking about, or absolutely they know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
You should consider who it's coming from.
Oh my God, completely.
Like if they have an incentive to criticize you a particular way.
I always say this for anytime, like part of the process of being a writer, especially like, well, any writer, is getting feedback from other writers. And you have to remember that when you send someone something for notes, they're going to give you notes. They're going into the read being like, I'm looking for notes to give you. And I think like, because when you get a script and someone's asking you for notes, you feel compelled to give them notes because like you want to prove to them that you read the script, that you have like thoughts. Nothing is perfect, so you want to be able to do that. Every once in a while, though, I will like, and again, we're moving into giving criticism territory. Over the course of, for a friend who's I've read many things of, I will, even if there are small little things, sometimes I'll just be like, hey, this is like mostly good to go. Like, because I don't see the point in pointing out like, because I want generally for people to gauge like, is this generally working or not? Broad strokes. Because it's not my job to like go in and be like, here's all the like little fixes that I would do. Because sometimes they're just like, here's how I would do it. It's not necessarily like what's right or wrong. And so, and like also there's just like a question of like sometimes the thing you make says something that you want to say, and the person who reads it wants you to say something else, or thinks that the thing that you're saying just isn't interested in the thing you're saying. And that's also okay. But through that lens, they're going to criticize all the things that make sense within the context of the thing that you're saying.
Yes. So that's like a challenge, or maybe not a challenge. That's just an exercise in aligning yourself with your own work.
Yes.
Like, this is what I want to say. If they're not interested, it could be an instance of me just not successfully conveying what I want to say. Or just that their sensibility or what they're looking for is just different.
Yeah. I mean, we have such a vast array of things that we can consume nowadays. And there's infinitesimally more niches out there. So like, let's honor that and be like, hey, you're maybe just like not in the niche that I want you to be in, you know? I don't know. It's interesting. Like, this is like kind of just like a side tangent about criticism in general. I remember once, and I think this is kind of like just a funny like characterization of critics. I don't remember where I was reading it, but maybe it was like within the context of like an English class. And they were like doing this hierarchy of like, who's the most like evolved. And they put they were like essentially it was like people who consume is like at the bottom. And then they were like people who create was above that, right? Like who write. And then they put themselves, but those who can criticize, those who can like evaluate are at the top. And I was just like, who wrote this? A critic? You know what I mean? It's like those who can analyze. And I was like, at the time I was like really in a mode. Maybe it was like during a creative writing class or something like that. But at the time I was like, it's much harder to create than it is to criticize something that someone's created.
100%.
But they were positioning it as like, oh, it's much like you have to like to know the craft so well that you can break it down and like analyze it and criticize it is like far more evolved than being the person who creates it.
I am suspicious of that.
I know, but I was like, naturally, you wrote that. I was like, a critic wrote that.
That makes me think of that book, that self-help book by The Artist's Way.
The Artist's Way, which I've never done.
Oh, it's great.
Yeah, everyone loves it.
Everyone loves it, and it can be a little woo-woo.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of great things there. But it's talking about a certain type of person who criticizes.
Oh, yeah.
And everything's in the context of like, trying to embrace your inner artist, right? The
book.
And there are a characterization of people who are critics, who are themselves blocked artists.
Yeah.
And so sometimes when they're putting out those criticisms, there's an aspect to something that they're seeing, that they recognize, that they themselves might be struggling with, and so they're just projecting it down onto other. It's like the opposite of a fair weather friend, kind of.
Yeah, like. Man, I also feel like in today's world, like there's this like emergence of the artist who's also become a talking head on Instagram, TikTok, who like do like commentary on other on happenings that happen, and they become more famous for doing that than they are for their actual work. And I've always been a bit hesitant to put myself out there in that way, because I'm like, also like, why criticize other people? Like, that's not my job. It's not like what I'm trying to do. But some people find like their footing there, and so they find more success as the critic than they do as, and I'm always just like, regardless if it's true or not, I always have the sense that like there's a bit of bitterness there, because like they're criticizing someone who actually did something, and they're also trying to leverage that to like then become the person who makes something. And in their shoes, I bet you they're the person who's like, screw that person who criticized me. They don't know what they're talking about. But I'm self-appointed to be the person who can do that.
I am wary of those because, like, I am fascinated by React content.
Yeah.
And I will consume some myself.
For sure.
But generally more because I'm wanting to see if my reaction to art is the same as other people. Like, does anyone feel the same way when this moment happens in a show?
Yeah, totally.
But I am wary of React content in general, or React content creators, because their stuff is entirely reliant on other people creating things.
Yes, totally.
And they are making something... Some would argue
original,
yes,
sure,
and
yeah.
it is transformative of the
Absolutely.
original content. But I think there's
Fair
something
use.
that I am viewing it through, which is you're reliant on other.
It's true.
People making things.
Yeah, it's true. I think there is like, and there's nothing wrong with that. And in some regard, we're all relying on other people's work because we're all consuming and then generating.
Yeah, to
like,
go back to what we established, like this is part of the byproduct of willing to be putting yourself out there.
Yeah, completely. But there is something like more immediate about when somebody is literally has the content there and they're criticizing the content or commenting on the content. It's so like uniquely tied to that one piece that it feels like it's extracting value from someone else's work, as opposed to us reading books and watching movies and then later on allowing that to infiltrate our subconscious and then use that as creativity. You know what I mean? I think that's different. I'm curious, like what you generally like how you feel about the commoditization of criticism online, like how people become, because nowadays like you don't need like anyone to allow you to become a critic. Like I think like even like if you use Rotten Tomatoes as an example, there's so many critics who are like, if you looked at them 20 years ago, they would be like, that's not a legit publication. But like now you see these YouTubers who are like movie critics and they're legit, and they get invited to like Cannes and they get invited to Venice, and their videos have as much sway as other people. You know,
there's a degree of cynicism that I have, and that's just something that I have to work through.
Yeah,
but I do think that it is part of a larger trend where we're just sort of outsourcing our general critical thinking and our analysis of art to people. We're generally looking for, maybe we're just so inundated with everything that we try to find the person that we think resonates with us. We find that critic who's like, oh, okay, I trust this person's taste.
Well, I do agree. There is this so I think 2 points have come up in recently that I've mentioned to you about the idea, because I think that's a very important point to make, that like we outsource criticism and we outsource opinions essentially.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it can be dangerous,
100%.
but at the same time, there's so much out there. And I think the 2 examples that I'm thinking about right now, one is silly and one is like a little more probably like serious. But with elections, so like we recently had our election.
This is the silly one?
No, this is a very silly one. Those silly elections. But a lot of times I think we might have been talking about this, like it's really hard to read through all the noise of like how let's say like a new proposition or a new law is being phrased and the people behind it, that you can't even interpret like what the effect is going to be. So what I ended up doing in this last one was like really voting along some organization that I trusted.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, okay, so if you guys have done the research, I trust that it's right and I agree with your general philosophy. And I guess like that generally exists within a system, a political system where we elect officials who vote on our behalf.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one. Let's a more serious matter of where I've outsourced my criticism or my analysis to someone else, where I've trusted you. And then the second one I told you about was like Costco, where it was just like Kirkland, you know. Okay, so I do this like it's like a shorthand for me, right? Like I could go on and research every single product out there, but instead what I do is, and why I'm such a fan of Costco, outside of their hot dog combo and the and the like the value, I trust that their team has vetted products well, that they've put them through enough rigorous evaluation that I can trust that they're going to be good products.
Yeah, there's a consistency in their brand that you trust. You have grown to trust.
Which I miss a lot nowadays because everything has become, especially on the consumer product end, everything's produced in the same factories. Everything is like sort of mass manufactured to be commoditized in a way, and Amazon has done this and everyone's doing it, that if there is a brand like Costco or like Patagonia where they really stand by their product and they go through rigorous testing, I would prefer to just shorthand buy from them and assume that they're doing a good job vetting until they lose my faith, right? And I just think that's missing a lot nowadays. Like there's no trusted sources anymore because everyone can essentially have access to everything, that I really miss the days when I could like trust a brand or trust a politician, right?
Right.
Which is all you're doing when you elect someone.
This is where it can get kind of interesting because of like the validity of criticism, like the weight and the possibility of influencing and affecting outcomes.
Yeah.
Like negative reviews of a product or a store,
right.
Negative reviews or critiques of a public figure.
Yeah, completely.
That is
totally derail their entire trajectory.
Yeah, for sure.
I still think about like Elliot Spitzer. He was that God, was he a senator back in New York? And he like was actually like doing a lot to like sort of like bring about change on Wall Street. Like he was really going in and trying to like clean up all of the like deregulation that happened in Wall Street. So he was doing a lot of good work. But all anyone could think about was, I think he like one time got caught with a prostitute. And I was like, like that derailed a otherwise like pretty good politician. And I don't know, it's like tough because you have to accept that when you're a public figure, your entire brand is like your career is intimately related to your person, who you are as a person in your private life, and you just have to accept that because like you're a proxy for morality at that point, right? Like and I would argue the same for movie stars in a lot of ways. Like you benefit from your public image, so you're gonna have to like accept that if you do something wrong in the public, you're gonna like, I mean, like we could talk about the whole like Blake Lively, Justin Baldoni thing. Like you could argue on one side that like that was a totally separate thing that had nothing to do with them as actors, but at the same time, you guys are benefiting from that coverage too, and you both understood that. So like you have to accept that if it can build you up, it can also take you down.
This is where I get a little bit wary, where the culture, like culturally, it just seems to be that we demand more moral,
morally absolute.
More absolute, morally absolute, and we demand purity from our public figures.
Yeah,
and that's what we're learning, and we're learning to criticize at people. And for all of us that are consuming this criticism, we think, oh, we have to hold those. Are we holding ourselves to the same standards?
Right.
And people are messy.
No, people are very messy, and it's totally understandable. I think it's funny. There's like been this, I think, two parallel competing things that have been happening in our culture that go back and forth. It's not like necessarily linear, but one is like, to your point, it's like that public figures are held to such a high standard, like that the one thing that they do wrong has to like take them down, right? That's all they're known for. And like we say, like either you have to be 100% pure or you're out. The second thing is like we have also had this like more accepting like culture of like lots of different taboos that existed in the past, right? Like, because you could argue that like a politician back in the day would just be derailed because he was gay, right? And like now, like you have to, that's like, because like we're removing the taboo of the thing that shouldn't have been there in the first place. And so we're competing with these two forces of like what should be something that takes you down, right? Because like we could argue that like, yes, your politician should not be a murderer, right? Like that's just because like they did good work, we should probably not elect a murderer. You know what I mean? Like, so I'm like, even though technically it doesn't have anything to do with their job, like you did something really, really bad. Like we can't trust that you're going to make good moral choices because ultimately you're a proxy for our morality. And so I can argue that less with actors or whatever, but the argument that I will make, again, which goes back to like our cancel culture stuff, is like if you're going to benefit from your personal image, you also have to deal with the downfall if that personal image gets tarnished. You can't argue then that I'm just an actor because you benefited from people being interested in your personal life, being interested in your dating life, being interested in the like drama that follows you. And so you can't both ride the wave and then like not deal with the crash of that wave.
Now I'm thinking about like public figures who were criticized and then they took that criticism and used it to their favor.
I mean, it's interesting. Like, I don't know if immediately it's hard to do it in the moment. I don't know if you have an example of someone who like was able to like sort of spin that right away.
Just very broad strokes. Like, for example, the criticism of the body of a pop star.
Right.
And then, you know, they shifted into, well, I love my body.
Oh,
and then you're taking that sort of criticism. And
I have seen those moments where people have been able to pivot like that, or they've recontextualized it. There has been, I mean, I think the criticism of women back in the early 2000s, like we've had a big we've rectified a lot with that. And
but
we've
we're
had
bringing back the 2000s though.
Bring back shaming women. Don't take that out of context.
Don't take that out.
No, but I think like it wasn't an immediate like thing, but like, you know, like I think we've had this like moment where we're like, oh, we really like went in hard on these women like Monica Lewinsky, like who had, you know, this young girl who was in a bad situation with like someone who's literally the president of the United States, like had the power discrepancy was huge. And like, what are you going to do? And then I just think about how young a 19-year-old is now as like someone who's like not that age anymore and like is well past that. I think like they're a child, like that's a child. And so to think like, how can a whole country come in and like villainize this young girl essentially? And now thinking about that and like, and then now, you know, like now that we've had, it takes like time and it takes a whole movement to like then recontextualize that whole situation. Little good. I mean, it doesn't take back the damage that was done to her, but like ideally she's like grown as a person and was able to like suffer through it and become better for it. But
I think through her resilience, I think she's an advocate for withstanding bullying and all that kind of stuff.
Absolutely.
But it is interesting, right? The criticism at the time, we're just calling it criticism, but I think there was a little bit more. It was a little bit more intensely beyond criticism. You know?
Oh my God, it was unfounded hate.
Right, and that's at the time we can consider where that criticism is coming from. Culturally, we were maybe more puritanical.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. No, I mean, still to this day, we're like, you know, we only slut shame women.
Right.
Yeah.
And yeah, exactly. That's the other thing is that like, all of the onus and the blame is on her, the woman, and not the president of the United States
who had so much power and was like much older, you know, like was her employer? Like, you know what I mean? Like all these things.
So that's, I think, something too important when we're thinking about criticism, like how informed by it is culture, a person's individual experience, et cetera, et cetera. And then we decide the validity of it.
Yes, totally. And you have to be very like, I think like maybe one of the things about accepting criticism is like, you have to be like at yourself. You have to be very sturdy as a person. You have to like I don't think you should seek criticism in a state of neediness, right? Like, don't go out looking for, Don't go up to someone and be like, did you like it? Did you like it? Like, you can't come with that energy. You have to put your work out there with the expectation that you're looking to gain criticism in order to make the product better, to make your writing better, to make your performance better, whatever it is, to make your work better. If you're not doing that, you're leading with ego. You're leading with like, insecurity, and you never want to go into getting criticism from that point of view.
Your focus is on the end product, and a lot of this is driven by the momentum created from just being in touch with being creative and artistic.
Yeah, definitely.
All in the context of artistry.
One thing that I did want to maybe like as we start to wrap up this episode, I think like it's not criticism, but I love, since we were talking about talking heads on the internet, one of my favorite things is the opposite. I love a story when there are these like food influencers out there who are like critics. You know, I would argue they're critics because they're going to places and they're like being like, the food is great here, this food sucks here. But my favorite type of story is when a notable food critic online goes to a place that has no business, and then they do it quietly. They do a little review. They don't ask them to pay for it or anything like that. It's like a mom and pop shop usually. And then it blows up on the internet, and suddenly the restaurant is ambushed with like clientele. And then I love the video when they come back and the owner spots the person because they know why, and they're like, "Oh my God, thank you so much for, you have no idea, you like saved this business." Those are my favorite like videos.
That's lovely stuff. That is a way, that is like an altruistic way to utilize your criticism and your status and platform as
totally
who criticizes.
Right, because a critic doesn't have to tear down. Like a critic can love.
Yes.
Right? Criticism has a negative, has a pejorative sort of sentiment to it, but it doesn't have to be. Like a critic can also be effusive about something, right?
You're a tastemaker.
You're a tastemaker. You can also just be like, this was amazing. I love this part. I love this part. Go see it. Go watch it. Go read it. Like, and that's kind of like when I was mentioning earlier, sometimes you're just like, this is great. This is ready. This is overall, this is this is like well on its way, whatever. Those are the moments where you can be like, in a measured way, be like, you're on the right track.
On the topic of being an evolved, we were talking about hierarchy of like, on the topic of being evolved, I think good criticism comes from someone who themselves has involved themselves with something creative in the same field.
You have to know.
Because then if they're criticizing something, they ought to be holding themselves to that same criticism.
Absolutely.
If you're going to say the harshest thing possible, then...
Or be willing to acknowledge that, like, if you got that criticism too, you would be able to receive it.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Because I think about that too. Sometimes I'm known for being fairly blunt about my criticism when people ask me for notes on their scripts. And I try to give a little bit of like, shit sandwich, like compliment, criticism, compliment. But to some extent, I'm like, you asked me for notes, like, let me give you notes. And so I want to be straightforward with people. And so I do that thing. But I also want to be like, hey, it's cool if you do that to me too. To be like, okay, let me read. Because a lot of times it'll be like, you'll feel defensive at first, like I said. But then you'll read the note and you'll be like, okay, this makes sense. Like, it's blunt, but it's like, I don't need anymore at this point. I don't need you to like give me a compliment to then give me a criticism.
There's
like,
information
just give me the criticism
here for me to parse through.
Exactly. But I will argue it is helpful I do find it helpful when people are like, this is working. Because then I'm like, don't eliminate that thing.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think from a comedy standpoint, like we as comedians, it sucks to bomb, right?
Right. Well, that's
when we see someone bomb, as comedians and performers ourselves, we're just like, at this moment, we know that this is not a reflection of this person as a whole being. Like, this is not a reflection of their entire selves.
Oh, completely.
In this particular moment, they were unsuccessful in trying to be
That's
funny.
It. And like the thing about what I love about feedback and criticism on the stage is how immediate and vocal it is, right? Because like either you get silence, which is criticism.
Yeah.
It's like that's not working.
Yeah.
Or you get a laugh, which is like that's working.
Or you get a
that. Yeah, you can also get that. But there's like but criticism comes in many forms,
Yes,
right?
that's right.
Like it comes in like silence.
a reaction.
It comes in a reaction. It comes in we're finding as we put stuff out on the internet, it comes in just like not taking off.
Yes.
Not finding its foot.
Something fun that I thought that we could do is, and we don't have to,
Yeah, let's do it.
is can you remember some criticisms that stick with you that sometimes come up in your head every now and then, whether it be about your person, your art, or anything like that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, at this point, it's like I've gotten so much
That's
feedback
healthy.
that I haven't internalized. Probably there were times though in the past where I had internalized a lot of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think that as far as it's really my writing and stuff like that goes, I think I've evolved a lot as a writer to not take it personally, to really think about, to healthily separate sort of like my work from like my personhood. But yeah, I think I've probably, you know what, I will argue that probably I have in sort of like taken on a lot of those criticisms and don't do them anymore, but probably for the better.
Mm-hmm.
Probably because I was like relying on tropes, or because I was like leaning into things that didn't work. Certainly like I think as a critic, as a self-critic, I've actually done the most self-censorship.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of it was like the thing that comes to mind is like anytime I like punched down, I immediately felt bad about it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't do that.
Yes.
I try not to do that. I try not to punch down in comedy because I just don't think it's funny anymore.
Right.
I don't think it's funny. I don't think it ever probably was, but like maybe there's a time when it could work.
Yeah, because I think it was a mentality of, thank goodness that's not me.
Yeah, exactly. But it was a different climate. But now I'm
Yeah.
just like, why do it?
Yeah.
It's like it doesn't feel satisfying to me.
Right.
So in that way, like yes, I've probably learned not from like overt criticism, but from feedback that I like that didn't work, and I don't want to do that.
Right.
I don't want to feel that way anymore.
And you're maneuvering and navigating, also taking into account your own sensibilities.
Yes.
Your own inner critic. One more thing I wanted to say about inner critics is, again, back to the artist's way.
Yeah.
Is that like if your sense of criticism is undeveloped, your inner critic will start self-censoring you.
That's
which
right.
can be helpful.
Right.
But if you're in a sensitive stage of starting something new, then that'll prevent you from ever even moving forward with something. 'Cause
I think
maybe someone said something one time when you were just starting out.
I think it's really tough, right? I think that's probably why we envy people who started things very young,
Mm-hmm.
because they didn't have that inner critic in them, and they were able also to learn something new at a time in their life when learning new things was accepted.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's really hard as adults to learn new things, because the only way to get good at something is to be bad at something. And it's really hard as adults to feel bad at something.
It feels less acceptable.
It feels less acceptable. But that's what we should be doing all the time,
We
is
ought
being
to
bad
be.
at stuff.
Yes, that's
Because we learn.
that's the real relationship, is your creative self and being okay with being bad.
Yeah, totally. It's okay to be bad at stuff. The only way to get good at stuff is to be bad at stuff. And you
Yeah.
have to just keep doing that. I think that's like so crucial. Like we need to like be less of a critic on ourselves, because we have to accept that you will be bad at things. And
Mhm.
it's not helpful to criticize that. It doesn't do anything.
Mhm.
It's helpful to criticize something later when you're creating a product that actually matters. But early on, you should be creating products that no one sees, which is why I kind of like, I'm a bit like sad that this generation, Gen Z and beyond, doesn't get to like make mistakes in private.
Mhm.
Like we got to make mistakes and just like fail in front of our friends, in front of a couple people.
Mhm.
But now these kids are like putting it online and they're failing in front of like, or doing things that they're going to regret like
Right.
later. And
Right.
and we should all be allowed to, we've done hundreds of shows for 5 people
Mhm.
and we bombed those
Oh my
shows. You know
God.
what I mean? Like, and that's okay, because like that's part of the process.
Right.
But we don't put those shows up online
Right.
for everyone to see. Like that's not the point of it. Like you need to
A space.
fail privately over and over again, and then you can start exposing your stuff.
Mm-hmm.
There's an appropriate time to expose your work to criticism.
Mm-hmm.
And I think people sometimes jump the gun.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a scary climate
It's very scary.
to create.
It is.
And it's
important,
discouraged.
and it is like it's a really tough balance. It's a really fine tightrope to walk, because I do also believe that like you can't just shelve your stuff away. It's meant to be exposed, and you have to learn to deal with criticism. But there is a balance of like you have to get to a point where you've learned enough to be able to expose your work, and you have to expose it in a way, a way that has less stakes early on.
And this could be a little bit cynical, but you could be in the mindset of like you receive negative feedback and you're like, hey, that's engagement.
Yeah. Also that too.
Someone felt compelled or had the energy to.
Right.
And there's something, it might not even have to do with something with you personally.
No,
but there was something that activated something in someone.
Yeah. It can resonate.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that you're going to be able to replicate that or that like it's like, yeah, everyone, like honestly, they think back to the 90s and be like, anyone could get on America's Funniest Home Videos, right? Like for getting a ball like thrown in their face or whatever. Like that's not why you want to be out there, right? You know what I mean? It's funny for a moment and you can laugh about it, but like that's not sustainable.
Right.
I guess is the point. If you're trying to generate creative work.
I'm going to say one thing that I remember that was said to me that was a criticism.
Yeah, please.
Of my appearance.
Appearance?
Yes.
Okay.
My young sibling.
Yeah.
Not sibling. My young cousin's child.
Okay.
Said to me, "You look like ugly One Punch Man."
What's One Punch Man? I don't know what that is.
One Punch Man is an anime.
Oh, okay.
He's a bald guy.
He's a little kid at the time.
He's a little kid.
Okay.
And I'm like,
okay, that's
funny.
That's funny. You got me.
But I will remember
ugly
that.
One Punch Man. That's funny. It's funny. Like criticism from kids is real because it's so honest.
Right.
Yeah, sure. I think we always talk about that. How like a kid's gonna tell you the truth no matter what, good or bad. They're gonna tell you how they feel.
Another instance of, I don't remember the specifics of the criticism, but when I was like in high school, I tried to write a book. I wrote like 50 pages.
Oh wow! In high school, that's amazing.
And then I showed it to a friend, and he was like, "Why are you showing me this?"
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? I never need to write a book ever.
I never need to do this again.
And
it is tough when you like expose yourself once, like, and you're just like, oh, this did not feel good.
It's good to know where your relationship with criticism is. If you received it young, you'll be very, very sensitive to it.
Oh my God, absolutely.
You have to go a little bit back to
totally,
move forward.
Yeah, because it is like you're saying, like when I was saying earlier that it's great to like experiment when you're younger. It's because there's no criticism. There's no expectations for it to be good. So you don't get the criticism. But if someone does give you criticism when you're young, it sticks with you.
Because if you don't have any sense of direction, you're learning how to treat yourself. And it's not always in your best interest.
You want to hear, actually, I think as a kid, I was really talkative early on. Mm-hmm. And then when I was like 5 or 6, I think, my uncle, my aunt's husband, said something to me. He was like, "Why do you talk so much?" And then I think at that point I just like stopped talking. Mm-hmm. Like I stopped. Like that one comment made me be like, "It's not right. It's not okay for me to talk."
It's a very like formative, sensitive time for you to hear that.
And so it really shut me down for like years of my life. Mm-hmm. That one comment, that one throwaway comment from this like man, this like person who like didn't really probably care that much about me, to be honest. Mm-hmm. But that really like affected my life.
Yeah. And that freaking sucks that happened. And I'm sure there's some element of it that's still moving forward in your life. You could kind of trace back to that.
Oh, totally.
But I think it's important to treat every new artistic or creative endeavor like that 5-year-old person. Not from the perspective of your uncle, but like hey, this is just a young person who's trying something and starting something out.
Yeah,
be
absolutely.
Encouraging, be kind.
For sure. As far as giving criticism, you have to know where someone is along the process. Mm-hmm. And know what they need. Mm-hmm. Know what they need. I think about this like even with like producers and stuff like that. Like I think a good producer keeps you motivated. Mm-hmm. Like they're not all criticism. Like they have to understand they're measuring the best work of the product, but also the longevity of the product. Mm-hmm. Because the process is long for movies and things like that. You got to keep the writer motivated to be like, I still am engaged in this. I don't feel like you're just tearing down all my ideas. Like I want to feel like we're on a team together. And like part of that is like withholding the one criticism you may still think is true, but for the betterment of like the project as a whole.
Time and place.
Welp. I feel like we talked about criticism a lot, and it's a lot of psychology around it. I think how we feel about it, but I feel like we dove into what it feels like to get criticism and the inner critic, where it comes from, why why we feel so biased toward negative feelings
Why
about
sometimes we'll just
reliving
like you receive something and you just pass it on to someone.
Oh
What's that
yeah,
word?
yeah. It's like it's intergenerational trauma.
Yes, exactly. I mean,
We pass it on.
Yes,
Yeah,
for
exactly. Yeah, I feel like we covered it. I'm should I go first this
Sure.
time?
Yes, please.
I'm Terry.
I'm Jed.
And this was another episode of Why Human Do.